There's nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed. Welcome to The Bleeders, a podcast and support group about book writing and publishing. I'm writer and podcaster Courtney Kosak, and each week I'll bring you new conversations with authors, agents, and publishers about how to write and sell books. Today is a special mini-sode because I basically just want to encourage you to apply to Trio House Press's 2025 Aurora Polaris Award in Creative Nonfiction. The deadline is coming up. It is May 15th. So I am including a link to the submittable in today's episode description. Here's the deal. I love Trio House Press. I think they are doing great work. They are based in my home state of Minnesota. And I was actually a finalist in their first Aurora Polaris contest, which was such an honor. And today we are talking to the winner of that contest and the author of the new book, Lost, Found, Kept.
Hi, I'm Deborah Derrickson Kossmann, author of Lost, Found, Kept, a memoir, winner of the inaugural Aurora Polaris Creative Nonfiction Award from Trio House Press.
Bring listeners up to speed. What is the premise of Lost, Found, Kept?
So the premise of the book is that as a psychologist, how did I not know or kind of not deal with my mother's hoarding disorder? And the book is the story about going into the house after 30 years and excavating the house. And while I'm excavating the house, the book, kind of winds together the past and the present to sort of help you understand how we got to this place in my family and also how I became who I am. Shaped by some of these things, different traumas and different kinds of losses and my mother's mental illness. It was done, actually, I finished it September of 2020. COVID was good for one thing. We were stuck at home. So I was like, okay, I've got the time. We're not doing a lot of social commitments. I'm not running around. I'm just going to crank this baby out and finish it. So I did. I sent it off to some beta readers. And then I started querying. I wrote a query letter and I had sort of a proposal.
Welcome to hell.
Oh my God, it's awful. It is the worst experience ever. And I knew some people who had literary agents and they introduced me and that crapped out. And it was just it was the most frustrating process. And what I was clear about with the book was this isn't a big five book. It's it could have been, but.
Totally.
but I just knew that in terms of pitching it. So what ended up happening is
also you lose control sometimes, that's the thing.
Well, the other thing is the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what, I'm old and I don't want to be spending 10 years trying to query this book around.
Yes.
So I started sending it to independent presses, university presses, and really do your due diligence about that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was very careful about that. CLMP and legitimate places. And then I sent it to some contests too. Mm-hmm. So a friend of mine that I had met at one of my residencies had published his poetry books through Trio House Press. Mm-hmm. And so I knew the books were beautiful. I had seen his book and stuff. And so they had their first creative nonfiction prize in 2023. And I happened to see it I just sort of in passing. And I was like, you know what? They're a poetry press. They're going to get my book. David's books are beautiful. I'm going to submit it. What the hell? I'm submitting it everywhere at this point. So, and I submitted it and I didn't even write it in Duotrope that I had submitted. I totally spaced. Was juggling all this stuff and so it wasn't even on my list of places I'd submitted to, whatever.
It wasn't on your radar anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it sort of disappeared and I went about my life. And 2023 was a terrible year. My mother actually passed away in July of 2023. There were health issues and auto accidents and my father-in-law died and COVID. And it was just a nightmare of a year. And then in September, I got an email that was hi, late September, you're a finalist for this award. And I'm like, what award? I'd totally forgotten that I had submitted it. And and then in the beginning of October, I found out that I had won. And Trio House is it's a small press, but they totally got the book and they loved it.
Were they good to work with?
Yes, they are good to work with. I mean, I love my cover for my book. I just think it's so great. And the way it's laid out, and they're learning too, because it's their first nonfiction book. So we're all a little bit in the learning phase. So I won't say it's been a totally smooth ride because, it's publishing and you have to, kind of learn. But they're great. They're very committed and they're very involved. And, I think it's been a really good situation with them. And I'm super happy, And I also feel like I did have a lot more control than I would have had.
Thank you so much to Deborah. Make sure you pick up your copy of Lost, Found, Kept. I have a whole interview with Deborah that I'm going to share with you in the next month or two, so stay tuned for that. And of course, if you have a memoir manuscript ready to go, make sure you apply to the Trio House Press Aurora Polaris contest by May 15th. That deadline is coming up, but I definitely encourage you to apply. And thank you so much for joining me for this episode of The Bleeders. Writing is so much better with friends. I'm your host, Courtney Kossak, and hey, let's connect on social media. I am at Courtney Kossak. Last name is Kossak on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky. And make sure you're signed up for the Bleeders Companion Substack for all kinds of newsletter exclusives. I send out one awesome post to my free subscribers every week. And I have launched a paid subscription where I take you behind the scenes of all my best bylines. I have written about my return to stand-up comedy and how I got ready for my showcase, all about my MFA and whether or not I think it is worth it. I do some workshops behind the paywall, including one that is coming up in the next 10-ish days. So if you are interested, make sure you become a paid subscriber today. There is a link in the episode description that will take you to the Bleeders Substack. And join me again next week for another all-new episode. In the meantime, happy bleeding!